So for many of you, this is the bit you've been waiting for, because you've already been buying cane that is gouged, shaped and profiled, and the earlier steps you're not going to get to. But however you do it, this is the bit really where we're going to take one of these and make it into a finished reed. And I'm going to go over this as an outline with a certain amount of detail, and we're going to follow up later with more detailed videos and questions from the video. So if you've bought a piece of gouged, shaped and profiled cane, you can do some preparation to it, which is just going to help you a lot. One of these, or an old piece of cane with a groove, anything you can lay that in, is going to enable you just to go on the inside and smooth out that inner surface. About 400 grit or 600 grit, very lightly. I've put a piece of wet and dry on a dowel, and that enables me to not do it, so make sure that I don't squish the edges, because once we folded that over, we're not going back inside. The outside less important, because you can always sand that, but I will also just do a light sanding, take any fibres off that are sticking up. And then most importantly, we're going to be folding a piece of cane, and we want to do some sort of bevel on this. So again, this is made by Bassoon Reed in America, and it just has a V. You can make one, sandpaper, and this enables me just to put in that nice 45-degree angle, so that when I put the reed together, it closes. And now one of these I'm going to soak. And here's one I've soaked. And I will soak this for 10 to 15 minutes in warm water. As I was doing the other videos, this has been soaking a lot longer. It tends to go soggy after a couple of hours, and if you leave it just 10 minutes, sometimes you'll split it. You'll find that soaking the right amount of time makes it all easy. So this is, I think, a little bit over-soaked, but we're going to go for it. So now we're going to have to score this piece of cane. Most of you will have learnt to take a standing knife and draw lines. That's a very easy way to do it. Some of us, thanks to Andrew Stoll at the Opera House, found these taps for little machine taps, which you can find out from his website or from mine. And this you can put into a handle, and you can scrape across the cane, and it will make the lines for you. Easier done in a handle. That's another way. Also, different companies sell these little scoring machines. Now, because I'm doing a quantity of reeds, this is a way of scoring which is very easy. I just turn the handle. So now I have a soaked, scored piece of cane. And this is where you will find there are many, many different ways to make a reed, and many ways that people will make a reed. I'm going to show you what I do, which is an amalgamation of many different great reed makers. We're going to fold the cane. If it's got a good score line on it already, it will just do that. If it hasn't, it won't fold like that, and you might find yourself having to fold it over a knife. I'm going to put on the first wire. And again, I leave the wire on the reel. A lot of people cut it to length. And because I'm left-handed, I'm turning clockwise with the piece of wire that's closest to me on the top. I'm a great advocate for chopping these off, because the wire is very sharp and you can end up with lots of little cuts on your fingers. And I'm not going to tighten this wire, but I'm going to tighten it enough so that when I am making the reed circular, the wire is supporting it and it will prevent it splitting. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use an elastic band. You can use a piece of string. I would definitely use something. The elastic band I find good because it's flexible, and this is thanks to Barry Stees in the Cleveland Orchestra. I'm tightening this not over tightening it, but I'm doing it so that now, when I'm putting the mandrel into the reed, it's not going to split. Now this is why I have removable pins. Many people make these, different manufacturers. You want a pin which is a long forming pin. It's not just the mandrel you would use to scrape a reed on, a short one. And this is actually vital because otherwise it doesn't go far enough in the throat. And with this I'm going to open up the reed with the pliers. So when I'm actually sticking it onto the pin, I'm hardly using any force at all because the pin is the right shape and the throat is opened, and there we go, that was forming the reed. And some people use hot mandrels, they say incantations and spells, but I find I don't split reeds this way. Now I'm going to really tighten this elastic band round the bottom of the reed, and I'm going to leave it to dry. And I'll show you why. So that elastic band is holding the cane against the mandrel completely. So it's actually formed the tube. If you've been patient, you'll have left this on the rack for at least a day, hopefully longer, because the elastic band will have pushed the wet cane against the mandrel and the reed will be fully formed. So this has been left not many days, but let's have a look how it's inside. And if you try to do this when the cane is still wet, you will not achieve what we're trying to do with this rubber band, which is to get the tube fully formed. So if I take out the mandrel, we have a fully formed tube. Now we have this fully formed reed. I'm going to leave it on the same forming pin, and I have a handle for my pins. Again, I'm going round and round so that the wire closest to me ends up on top, because I'm left-handed, and so that the bottom wire will go clockwise. You'll know when you've done it the wrong way because you'll have some sort of crisscross of the wires. They won't lie against the cane. Again, round and round. If you're right-handed, it should still work, but then you're going to twist the other way. So we're now at the stage where we have a dried reed with wires on. Some people don't even bother to bind them at all. I like to have something to get hold of when I'm using a reed. I have this shrink wrap, which is electrical tape which is glue lined, that when you heat it shrinks to the size of the reed. Quite a lot of people use this. This particular stuff is already cut to length from an eBay shop called Nexus Woodwind, from a really great helpful chap called Roger Trotman in the north of America. You can heat it over a gas flame if you've got a stove, or over a little spirit lamp, like the little ones you put some meths in, and a burner. Or you can have a hairdryer. I've got an industrial type of glue shrink wrap shrinker, which is a similar principle. So what we do here, we're going to take the finished reed and we're going to hide the third wire. We're done with the third wire. We're going to make sure it's tight as it needs to be. If at this stage there's any gaps in the tube, or if the reed isn't totally circular on the mandrel, just move it down the mandrel and over tighten that wire a bit. We can't get back in there if it's going to leak. We want that tube to be round. If you've done a good job, it should still be round. I'm going to cut off this wire just to a small little knob, and I'm going to tighten it and I'm going to fold it down. And hopefully that's the last time I'm going to see that one. Now I'm going to turn on my noisy hairdryer. I'm going to place the plastic over there, and I just hold it into the... I usually wear gloves for this because it's hot, and that will shrink to the size of the reed. There we go, and that will be hot. As I say, you can do that over a flame. It doesn't have to be one of these.